Let's, okay, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order, and we do have a quorum, so thank everyone for coming today. Do we have anybody on Zoom, Christine? Okay. Uh, Little pre-announcement. Today, we introduce our new interim city manager, Pat Gallegos, and our new city attorney, Kimberly Rudd. And we welcome both of you, and I'll introduce our members, and this will also serve as roll call. To my far left is Greg Privet, and Eldon Merrick and Diane Parker and Thomas DeWitt. So we have an honorary member that's here quite a bit with Ursula Parker, general manager from Roosevelt County Water Co-op, and usually Eric Segovia from the Electric Co-op is here, so they are absent today. And Larry Levacy from the Water Co-op as well. And we also extend our thanks and best wishes to Preston Elkins, who recently departed from this committee due to relocating his residence. So we do thank him for his service to this group. For the record, our last meeting was May 31st. Due to previous protocol, we do not have minutes. I would call for the agenda today to be adopted. So do we have a motion and a second to adopt this agenda? Okay.
Second.
Okay. Is anybody opposed to that? No one opposed. By unanimous consent, we will adopt the agenda for today. We'll be discussing items specifically on the agenda, and we will conclude with members of Water Advisory Group, city staff, and the public having the opportunity to comment for up to 3 minutes. As a point of order, please indicate if you wish to talk, and you will be given the floor. And please respect while somebody has the floor, let them speak without interruption. To give some perspective for Mr. Gallegos and Ms. Rudd, I will give a brief summary of our last meeting. On May 31st, we discussed the rescinding of the newly passed drought contingency plan, returning us to stage 2 modified status, and the probability that we will need to wait until the city has full installation of digital metering, both in residences and in the well field, before we can move forward with precision on a drought plan that is both logical and legally binding. So if there needs to be any discussion about that, let's have it at some point. But I think it was pretty well discussed that we're kind of stuck in that regard. We also left the meeting recognizing that the most applicable means to ensure self-compliance regarding the conservation measures is by tiered pricing, kind of using the concept, the more you use, the more you pay. So, and we'll touch briefly later on that later in the meeting. Getting to the actual agenda, item 1, rules of Water Advisory Group. Along the way, several findings have come to light regarding committees in Portales, including a strong probability that the Water Advisory Group has not been in compliance with state law. Under the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, a committee is subject to OMA if it was created by or is advisory to a public body, example, the city council. If we stopped right there, it's clear that the Water Advisory Group must conform to OMA guidelines regarding minutes, publications, notifications, standard parliamentary procedures required by law. Going one step further, however, to back that up, the New Mexico Attorney General's Open Meeting Act compliance guide states standing committees, advisory committees, task forces appointed by a public body and given authority to make recommendations or decisions regarding public business are subject to the act. So yes, in Portales, a committee is considered official, even if it's not defined in ordinance or resolution, if it was created by city council, mayor, or city manager, which it was. It handles city business, makes recommendation, or affects public policy, which it does, or it operates with city endorsement under city authority, which it does. We will place this in the capable hands of Ms. Rudd for final interpretation and legal advice. And that said, beginning now and moving forward, this committee from this end will operate in full compliance with the Open Meeting Act because it literally cost us nothing to do so. So we're going to follow the rules. I believe that this should also include adhering to our own city protocols and precedents, specifically preparing minutes, publishing agendas, making meeting videos available to the public. However, that sector will fall into the competent hands of Mr. Gallegos or possibly your successor, but not to us. So it would make sense. The second part of that equation is there has been discussion about establishing either resolutions or ordinances to provide guidelines for our city committees and positions. And we definitely welcome any efforts to provide guidance and focus for these groups. It will serve our community for years to have all parties on the same page to tackle some very serious problems our city faces. Today, we have the opportunity to discuss, suggest some of these guidelines or ideas with each other. So I'm going to open up the floor for committee members, staff comments, discussion, debate, or succession or suggestions. So let's talk it over, hear it out. Who wants to go first? I think Thomas probably does. Go ahead. Thomas raised his hand.
I can go first. I know when we first started that they wanted to introduce some ordinances to it. Looking over the ordinances of some of the committees, me and Miss Rudberg, we weren't really happy with any of the verbiage that was in these committees or the ordinance itself. And it kind of strayed away from some of the other ordinances for like planning and zoning, which we didn't understand either. So after talking it over, even talking with the mayor, we've decided that we're probably going to not go after an ordinance, more of just setting some rules for the committee so we can guide specific committees and what their duties are, especially for the advisory boards. You know, if it's real specific, then the rules will be specific for that advisory board. But and also, you know, we're going to welcome everybody's input. That way we can work together to get these rules in place. That way, you know, going forward, everybody knows exactly what that committee or advisory board is for and what you're meeting for. Because, you know, it's easy for a committee to get together and then also start straying off. Hey, what about this problem? What about this issue? You know, let's correct this, get some rules in place for each committee and go from there. It's what our idea is.
So what you're saying is there's not we don't have to have an ordinance or a resolution to make this committee official and binding or to follow OMA and other such state rules or laws.
I believe we just need a set of rules.
Okay.
I think a resolution would be good, but I don't think we need to go all the way to an ordinance to actually do
I
it.
agree.
So, if I'm not, sure.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that when this particular committee was formed, it was more of an advisory type committee that was a subcommittee of Public Works. And I think the intention was to try to get some thought process going on how to work through some of our issues that we were having. Drought contingency was one of the things. The rates, we've had someone hired that's supposed to be setting our rate schedules for well over a year.
Yeah.
And have had very little feedback. And so some of those things are, you know, what we were put in place for. And I listened to one of Thomas's posts earlier about how that he kind of felt this was a think tank. And it is basically. I mean, we've all had ideas of directions we should have gone and just kind of bounced them off of each other and tried to move forward. But everything basically from here goes into Public Works and then they make a recommendation to the council. So I think what you're saying would work very well to just have a set of rules and guidelines to guide each one of these and move forward from there. I didn't feel like it was something that needed to have an ordinance, and especially the way it was written up, the way that positions were supposed to change and rotations and when it was implemented, which the timeline that was proposed was off base from anything else we had
Right.
coming on in April. I mean, that kind of fit our old election timelines, but it was kind of out of whack with what we are now currently. So I agree with what you were saying, that it's good to just establish a set of rules and guidelines to go by and continue to let us through some issues.
Absolutely. You know, and some of the concerns we had is, you know, we're meeting, who's keeping track of all these meetings and where's this information going? Because just in case we do have an IPRA or something that comes, hey, I want everything from here. Who has that information? And that's some of the things that we're finding that we need to fix within the city to, you know, to access easier and to help us assist with other tasks besides just the committee itself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I would like to throw in a few recommendations, just getting down to the core of it.
Okay.
I do think we should have at least one city council member in order to provide a direct pipeline to council, but not be overloaded with council members. Their plate is already full. Many of them have full-time jobs. All of them have some very serious council duties. Most of them serve on more than one committee. Every time I turn around, I see Diane at some meeting, and that's just water oriented. So I do think that we need just enough council members to keep it separate form of government. There's no point in making this a mini city council to where, you know, the other thing, I do think the committee should elect their own chair and vice chair. I do think it's up to the chair of the committees to call meeting schedules, with the city manager also having the authority to do so. It's my understanding this is pretty standard protocol. I think terms should be in 2-year increments, coinciding with the new council election terms. And with on January 1, with the mayor recommending to council who they would like to serve on these committees with majority council approval. However, I do think that membership could be repeated without forced term expiration, without forcing somebody out after 2 years, if it's desired that they continue service. And especially on water advisory, because some people, like in the co-op and others, are bringing a water background in some form to this committee. So it's not like you're just going to turn around and find a direct replacement for that person, you know, every 2 years. So I think a term limit should not be imposed in that regard. So say you're forcing somebody out after 2 years. Right. If the mayor wants to repeat them or repeat their service and they're willing to do so. So that's just some of the stuff that I would recommend.
Okay.
I don't know if we can call for a chair and vice chair today. I don't know if we have to have public notice of that, but I think we need to do that as soon as possible. And get that part of it just solidified.
Knocked out. I think it would probably be better for us to post that
I think so.
on an agenda item. So
Okay.
so that the public has input on that. This is Ian Hillsman. He represents the public. He comes to a lot of.
Really does.
You go ahead and do it. It's not the call, but we're gonna let you. Yep, go to the podium.
Hello, my name is Ian Hillsman. I just had an idea about posting the announcement that you would make a chair and a vice chair for the committee. You might also think about posting the fact that these meetings take place, because unlike a lot of other city meetings, the schedule for these meetings isn't published. And I don't know, maybe more people would show up if they knew that the meetings were going on. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Yeah, and that's something we were talking about, possibly working on from a city aspect.
Yes.
So, so I'm assuming that y'all are gonna draft something up, or does this and come back with it for us to look at, or
So I have been working on advisory outlines. So from my perspective, I definitely think that what benefits the city is having a very similar structure to council with this, but by resolution. Having you guys know exactly what is within the authority that you guys are collectively investigating, researching, making recommendations that council is then going to potentially act on. I would like to incorporate a lot of things that you guys already have going on, and the structure, members, that sort of thing, and then guidance on the terms. Also guidance on when you guys are going to meet and how often, because I know that has also been a point of discussion. I have a little bit of an outline going. You guys have touched on some of those things today. And then just, in my mind, I know that Public Works has been the overall for you guys, and then the subcommittee of water. I think by way of resolution, we will do committee rules, advisory committee rules for water that will be separate than Public Works. And so in a way, I understand how they kind of tie together, but I think with what you guys have, the tasks that you have in front of you, drought contingency, water meters, DBSNA contract, aquaterics, there's a lot of water things that need to be dealt with that are very separate from Public Works. And I would like for you guys to potentially be able to make recommendations directly to council, not to Public Works. Public Works will focus on those Public Works things, and you guys would collectively focus on water and everything that goes with that. And then potentially later, new city manager, that could change, but just as of right now, to get us up and going and address the ordinances that are no longer going to be ordinances, but rules by resolution.
okay? So I could see that helping eliminate one step. We're kind of going from water advisory to Public Works, then to council. Then if it has to go back and start over again, then you're right back where you started.
In my research of what we currently have going on at the city, planning and zoning is a commission because by law, New Mexico law appoints, right, gives specific guidelines of what planning and zoning is going to do, what their authority is, what their power is. Then we recently created the Recreational Advisory Board, and they're different because they are a board. And so what you guys would be a committee where you're more advisory, which recreational is too, but the way that ordinance is written gives them a little bit more authority and power to make decisions over those recreational things. Whereas I think with Public Works, water, the cemetery, and public safety, it needs to be researching, investigating, collectively coming up with, ideas that could work, and then advising that to the committee, to the council, for them to make decision from there. So that's what I would like to do with all of those four that are out there, and they've been meeting, but they haven't been meeting necessarily very closely to that open meetings, act. And I would like to see that happen. I would like to see, it would be something that's going to take time because we haven't been posting the agendas. We haven't had, anybody taking meeting notes, all of those things. So those are things that I think we need to focus on and getting more structure. Because as Mr. Gallego said, we're subject to IPRA. And you guys as well, having information with these committees and being involved with these advisory committees, that information should be public knowledge.
I also want to throw out that meeting frequency is a little bit deceptive. The overall gist of the committee and originally set up kind of in the guidelines was to have, like a quarterly meeting, 3 or 4 times a year. But that was when we got a lot of excess water problems straightened out. So it would lead into that. Prior to that, we found ourselves needing to meet a lot more frequently because we had a lot of water problems, a lot of water related problems. So hopefully that part of it would thin down over the course of time, and we're literally just meeting for the season. For example, are we going to have an extremely arid summer, and what do we need to protect ourselves for this next, 3 or 4 months? So, but with the number of water problems we had, that also brought more frequent meetings to try to come up with solutions for them. Right. So just an idea. Is there anything else on this section that anyone would like to say? Good.
Good.
Christine?
So I guess my question is, I was instructed by a previous city manager not to post the videos for water advisory. They sit on a server for IPRA purposes. Am I going to start publishing these?
I think they should be published, but I mean, it's.
And am I
Public
going
right.
back to the inception of the water advisory and posting all of those now?
Well,
I don't know that we should
I would,
put all that work out there, as long
Yeah.
as she's still got them.
I think as long as we still have them access, we're fine. But
Yeah. I'm
I think
definitely
going
for
forward,
it.
if we're gonna start treating all the committees and everything pretty much similar, then we just do similar actions with each one of them. We post the planning and zoning, then we're gonna post these ones as well. Cause it just goes back to transparency with the city. It's not, we're not trying to hide anything, so why do we not post it if everything else is posted? It just goes along with, why aren't we posting when the meetings are occurring?
That was driven by,
Yeah, so, yeah, but going forward, I think we're just gonna start with all these committees going forward, I believe is, start doing it correctly and all the same is my idea and my thoughts.
I think that posting the videos and stuff like that should coincide with everything else we're, excuse me, that we're doing here with if we're doing a resolution and everything. I think it should all coincide and move out at the same time.
So I have a question. So what was the reason for not posting it before?
Sarah said it was just an advisory and they were just doing the drought plan, so therefore we didn't post minutes, we didn't take minutes, I just recorded it in case of an IPRA. And we didn't post the meeting online because it wasn't an official committee.
if I could interject, that was true when Sarah
Yes.
brought that up. It was just a task force, literally, which probably still was subject to Open Meetings Act. However, the group was made official when Mayor Miller made it official in January. So I would defer to Ms. Rudd on, would there be a problem with us just fixing this from this point forward without Christine having to go dig through a bunch of archives and find minutes that literally do not exist? I mean, I think she's videotaped every meeting. Somebody could sit there and translate it. So if somebody wanted to IPRA request the meetings or the minutes, she could provide it to him.
Yes.
But maybe we could just start from now and do it. It would look like an advancement for the city. Start now, do it forward correctly, and go with it. Sarah wasn't wrong in that degree, but Miller changed that.
But nobody gave direction after that.
I agree with that. I agree with that. So,
From my perspective, when I first found out about the meetings taking place and happening, because I wanted to go watch them, I wanted to figure out what had been some of the issues for you guys, and the best way, right, is can't go back in time, but I could watch that. And that's when I got with Pat and said, I don't know, because it seems like there was just a conversation between Miss Austin and individuals of like, let's get together, let's put a think tank together and let's really brainstorm for the city. At that point, it gets to this point, I think there's some confusion on how that came to be just a very informal thing that has now become a formal thing that I do think we are very much subject to the Open Meetings Act. My other thing with that is I always think, what would someone's cause of action be, right, against the city for this? And I think that goes through the IPRA, because they would IPRA that information, which we would be able to provide. So I think up until this point, I don't know that anybody would have something really other than that to point to and court and say, this is what has happened. I deserve damages. You know, I have some kind of breach for this. So moving forward, I think we can avoid that. And because you guys are meeting in a very formal way and very much an advisory way. And I just think that it's not to say we shouldn't go back and remedy it, but I think the remedy is keeping them on file, having them to be accessible, and someone IPRA them, we provide the information that we have.
yeah, there may be a day when she might get a helper. That would be a good project to go fill in the blanks. So, but
Well, a question and a comment. So with us being an advisory committee, I want to make sure that if we do allow accessibility to our meetings and that you are now able to post them, that people don't interpret them as being policy. So we discuss it here and this, and we're talking about it. Maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that. Let's look at the drought plan. Let's like what stage are we in? And then we leave our committee, and then people start. Unfortunately, we have social media like very big. So then people start posting, oh, I heard on a meeting. They're not going to specifically say what meeting or what day. They're going to say they saw that there was a committee meeting and this is what they said. So then I just want to make sure, and I don't know how, it's almost like we do announce the times of the meetings and that they are available if you are wanting that. But with so many meetings being out there, then people are going to start interpreting and saying lots of different things. Oh, wait, I heard that we can do this and we can't do that. And now we're at this level and now we're at that level. I don't know. Just what are your thoughts on that?
We've had the same concern, or I won't speak for Mr. Gallegos. I've had the same concern because it goes back to whenever you look at these advisory committees, and then you go and look at the Open Meetings Act, and then you go look at Chapter 3 of municipal law and all of those things. Public officials, elected officials are dealt with in a different way, and we have a different responsibility to the public. And when we set up these advisory committees, and then the advisory committees then begin being questioned and answering on social media platforms in a way that a public employee, I would not be able to, right? I would not be able to go on that platform and answer those questions in that way. It gets very misleading and confusing for the public because they know these members are part of these advisory committees, they're involved in them, but these advisory committees don't actually have true authority to make any decisions. And so that was my concern.
But do they know that?
Well, that's why I would like
Does the
to.
public know that?
Yes, and that's why we would very much like to get these in resolutions, have these at a city council meeting, and make this something where the public is very aware and understands, like, moving forward, these advisory committees are investigating, they're researching, they're advising, but they are different in council, and that any decision, they don't make decisions. I think this has been brought up before with quasi judicial, advisories versus boards. They're interpreting what's already law. You guys are interpreting what is already a law. Council is making law, deciding new laws. So those are the distinctions, and I think we just have to make sure that's part of the resolution and that's known in the resolution.
I think that public does need to be educated, that council are the deciders. They are the ones that make all these decisions. This board, I think, I mean, the problem you're bringing up actually applies to Public Works, the Finance Committee, the Library Board, everything. With this committee, with the name advisory in the title, I think that pretty well spells it out.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, we don't have to explain it.
And not 100%, and we know this, we've all been on social media. Not 100% of the people are gonna understand, period. It doesn't matter what the subject is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much information you give them. They either don't want to know or
It doesn't fit their agenda.
thank you. And then there's a certain amount of, and excuse the term, but there's a certain amount of ignorance, just not knowing, just not knowing,
Definitely
and you
want to
just
be
can't get around it.
transparent, like what you're
Absolutely.
saying, but I can just see people saying, they're not gonna say, oh, I listened to a water advisory meeting the other day, and this is what I found out. They're not gonna say that. They're gonna say, I saw a meeting. And do you know what I'm saying? And this is what they said. They're not gonna say what meeting or when it was, or.
Right.
So then it's gonna be, they're gonna think it's policy. So yes, but yes, we definitely need to be transparent, and we have absolutely nothing to hide. So I just am concerned about the interpretation of what they will be putting out there.
Yeah.
Because we have the meeting and we allow them to have access to it, but then they take it further and then go into the social media thing.
There's certain things you can't fix.
Right, exactly.
There's,
Very
there,
good.
there really isn't, and it's gonna happen, but I think just brainstorming real quick, one thing that we could possibly do is on our website, we keep council meetings separate from advisory board meetings, and then maybe have some kind of disclaimer or something, say all the meetings in this section or whatever are advisory board,
Advisory only.
are advisory only, and all the information here still has to be approved by council
Yes.
before they come along or something like that.
That would be.
Excellent idea.
Yes, absolutely.
Just give you the verbiage and I can put it up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. a
Yeah,
good
we'll just,
effort.
we'll kind of keep them separate. You'll have your council page, council meeting page, and then you'll have all your board meetings, the advisory boards page, I guess.
It's,
Let's say,
it's actually set up that way right now.
So-
You click on council or you click on committees.
Thank you.
mhm.
Okay. Do we have anything else at this particular topic at this particular time? Okay. Next up, and I don't see him here, would be Chris Mendoza regarding Aquaterix.
Well, he was supposed to be, he's actually on vacation. And
Okay,
he said he was gonna make it to it, so I'm hoping he didn't get the dates mixed up with
Okay.
the Public Works
yeah,
meeting.
please show up tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, he might show up tomorrow, so I didn't give him a call, so I apologize for that. But
Good.
he's the one that put this on here, but same time, we can actually push this to the next meeting if y'all would like.
Yeah, I don't think it's emergency.
Okay,
If he, well,
Probably wore out from dust.
yeah,
Are you there?
Yeah, well, you had a lot of stuff going on, different directions.
yeah, he was actually doing the Little League All-Stars too,
Yeah.
but he was in Alamogordo this weekend doing that also.
Chris was going to talk about Aquaterix, the stage levels, and I was going to sneak in with him while he was talking about these digital meters. So I can wait to ask him about that, or if you folks know anything about those digital meters, status, anything like that. Now that you could share, it'd be great. If not, we can postpone that as well.
I will tell you this. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
I was just gonna ask if Eric was up to date with this presentation that Chris was gonna do. Okay.
I'm familiar with both Aquaterix and the water meters. I have been working both on Aquaterix and the water meters. With water meters, we're in the process of going through some contracts. There's been a couple of contracts that I have reviewed, gone through with really good detail. Been working with Mr. Mendoza. Mr. Mendoza has been working with Mrs. Rivera, and we are pretty close to being able to present one to council for review for water meters. I think that probably the way that y'all's schedule falls, we might have the water meters presented to council before the advisory board. Because we're trying to get that on for potentially in July, because we do know that is, speaking with Mr. Mendoza, water meters is priority. And then in regarding Aquaterix, I have also been working on that project because, and I'll let Mr. Mendoza tell you guys more, but I will tell you for now. Aquaterix, from my understanding, is going to potentially or would present to us something that we're potentially already contracted with through DBSNA. And so Aquaterix, in very simple terms, GeoScan is going to give us a scan to find water or to find available spots for water. So what we currently have going on with DBSNA, an engineering firm that has created or been working in conjunction with our Water Trust Board money, that we've been awarded for them to do similar, a GeoScan. So that is a competing contract to Aquaterix. Similar, because they would do similar things, is my understanding, but in different ways. And so they are kind of tied together, but also separate. And so I will let Mr. Mendoza speak with you guys more, but that is something we're working on because DBSNA is directly tied to our Water Board Trust Fund money, the grant money.
Okay.
Through the application, or how did that get done?
Yes, sir. So I believe council previously, because it went before council for us to be able to go through, get that money from Water Trust Board. Well, Water Trust Board makes you have an engineer put out bids for it, and DBSNA was the engineering firm that got the bid for that. And so we are tied to them for that grant money.
So they're using two totally separate technologies, literally working or literally trying to discover two different types of water. So is that still a conflict? Because Aquaterix specializes in deep-seated water that most companies miss, which
Yes, sir. I think that Aquaterix can still happen potentially, right? Could still happen because, as you said, they're different. But from my perspective, DBSNA still has to happen. So whether Aquaterix happens or not, that's a separate thing for your
that's like an
consideration.
add-on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is trying to replace DBSNA.
But can we use the money? Can we still use? We can't.
Because the money awarded to DBSNA through the Water Trust Board is only awarded to them, so it can't be moved to Aquaterix.
Okay,
I apologize.
What about a what if? What if we found that, God forbid, they weren't doing everything they were supposed to do? As far as moving along in a timely manner or
Some kind of breach.
some kind of breach. I mean, is that how that money's tied up for a long time, isn't it?
So the part that we're at right now, and I really want Mr. Mendoza to be able to tell you guys more beyond this. So I will tell you this, and then we can have him present for more. The DBSNA, we're at the point where I believe that we're going to have the preliminary engineering report that has already taken place. We're at the point where we're at renewal of it. We're going to have another one because it's been 2 years. And so there is a potential with that to adjust what we have going on with DBSNA, adjust it. But there is not the potential to get out of it, because if we were to get out of it, then we get out of the grant money, because they are tied together. And so that's why I say there's a potential for Aquaterix to happen, but it can't happen through Water Trust Board money.
And I don't think we ever thought that, did we? Well, because they started looking for money within the budget that wasn't in that. Go ahead, Ellen, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's just been my understanding that just when DBSNA gave us a proposal, there were phases to it, just like there is in this Aquaterix. And it was up to us whether we continued with those phases or didn't. So if we got to the phase, which is where we're at now, where DBSNA had proposed almost a $300,000 hit to go out and do the seismic soundings and all of that phase of their proposal. If we chose not to continue with that phase of it, I don't see why we couldn't continue with another company. Or even as Greg just mentioned, set Aquaterix up with DBS&A to subcontract through them to do that phase of it because they can do it cheaper.
Mhm.
Additionally, sitting through I'm sorry, a DBS&A presentation. I've sat through a couple of them. They explain these phases, and Portales is not going to get through all of their phases. They're talking about 80 wells. They're talking about 20 years. I mean, their plan is massive.
Monstrous.
And it's like, what was it, $280 million? I mean,
For the wells and for tying in plain water, reinjecting water back into the aquifer. There was a large proposal.
so I think we were biting this off in chunks that we could do with full knowledge that we are not going to be able to do everything they recommended. And I don't think we committed to them to do all those things, did we?
Well, I mean, that would be,
Well, that was, even at that point, that would be subject to financing.
I am in the process of looking into the adjustment with DBS&A because I know that is wanted and the potential for that. And that's why I bring that new preliminary engineering report back in, because I do think that the direction that they're imagining Portales going is not the direction we can actually go. And so that's why I say that has to be adjusted, but I can't tell you today for sure whether that can be adjusted and the way that you guys are wanting, but it is something we are working on.
We also, Mr. Durand knows about this. Greg, also Eldon, we were in the well field one day and we came up with a brainstorm about, because they were going to put the storage tank in Industrial Park, and Eric and Chris made mention that we needed a booster and storage in the well field. And we came up with the idea to put, instead of putting it out there, why not put the storage in the well field, kill two birds with one stone and accelerate that by a number of years. And everyone involved liked the idea, but they also talked about they're going to have to adjust one of these things you're talking about for that purpose. And that could potentially save the city $7 or $8 million. So, and speed us up by a number of years. So, yeah, I'm gonna say something else.
no, it was just the phases would have to been adjusted in what the DBS&A's report was. And there's got to be a little bit of flexibility on some of this stuff, or we can't. I mean, when they make a proposal and just deadlock us into something and find out along the way that's not going to work, there's got to be some flexibility there somewhere. So.
I can see.
Even if we have to go up to the Water Trust Board and make our case to them to say, hey, you've locked us into this engineering firm and we can save money by doing this other option. Can't we rework this? I don't know what our options are there. I don't know what guidelines they have to stay within, but we've got to investigate it and find out. So
Feels like we're held hostage. And the awarded money is held hostage to a company that we have no control over what their projections are with it. You know, you mentioned the term proposal, and it doesn't sound like a proposal. It sounds like we're hamstrung into the deal and we're locked in and we can't move. And I think what everybody's been saying is we're shooting for the stars, and right now we just need to get our head above water. You know,
Does it say something on the bid on what the term is, like for so many years or?
On the award, yes, ma'am. That's what I've been working on collecting and getting and reviewing and going through all of that. And so I don't want to tell you guys until I have a definitive. Just wanted to generally let you know it is something that Mr. Mendoza has gotten with me about. We have been working on it a lot. That and water meters have pretty much been priority of my time at the city so far.
Let's
So
let's leave it at that because we got you into that conversation very deeply. So. Are you sure you're not coming?
to me, but I just spilled the beans.
Let's
It's, yes.
we're gonna trust,
Nice to know.
yeah, we're gonna trust you to figure this out from a legal perspective and trust Chris's judgment. And let's get back on this with both of you here and after a little bit more time. The last item we wanted to talk about, I've got a little tiered residential water structure that put together, and this is strictly a sample. For the purpose of discussion, it took, I think, roughly 18 seconds to generate this. I would do it again in a different manner. I already want to change it, and I'll explain that, but I want to give you a sample of something and have a discussion on this. The rate structure discussion kind of operates on two levels. One is a comprehensive study being done by, is it Waterworks or Waterworth? I can't.
Worth.
Worth?
I think it's Waterworth.
I think so.
Okay.
That's weird. I mean,
Waterworth?
I think it's Waterworth.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down. Okay, because I always mess that up. Okay. At any rate, done by Waterworth that evaluates what the city needs to meet its goal over the next 10 or 20 years. And that's a good thing. It's the definition of being proactive. But realistically, I would categorize that as like a level 2. Level 1 being more immediate is what do we do to stop the bleeding? We have been studying rates. They have been studying rates for over a year and a half. That I know of, and technically much longer than that. My concern is that a simple, modest, almost emergency rate structure adjustment could have been implemented in a matter of days a year and a half ago and got this system in place. And instead, we have let hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential revenue slip away, waiting for this complex formula and some type of report to justify the actions of raising water rates. When truly, we know they need to be raised from a potential of city revenue. City needs some more water-related revenue to act on. And we also need some higher rates on higher tiers to help us conserve those water. So I'm kind of not understanding, and this isn't a scrutiny of anyone. I'm throwing it out there for discussion. I'm kind of not understanding why we didn't implement some slight increases in the higher tiers. Actually, a couple of reductions. I would propose a new tier, 0, that is hookup only, to where somebody could stay hooked up but not use any water. That just keeps the water on at that residence ready. The advantage, it's available when the customer's ready, and the city avoids the cost of making service trips to connect or disconnect. And for a modest fee, we can just keep somebody going. I actually, on this chart, I want to insert a new tier in here it's not on here, but that would be the first tier being 1,000 to 1 to 1,000 gallons, which would be a low use tier. And I'll tell you, and this is real world for me. I had a storage building with water service that I made 2 pots of coffee a week and used the restroom a couple of times a week, and I paid $96 a month. And my use was so slow, it didn't even move the meter. And I canceled that service 18 years ago. I saved myself $27,000 in that amount of time, which I equate to guitars. So I acquired 12 or 14 extra guitars in that time. But what the city did was lost substantial revenue for using that type of model. So if we could come up with a low tier use, then this is going to increase participation and revenue in those first two tiers that the city is not getting now. And it's going to decrease labor in having to turn things on, off. Then go to another tier, which is like 1,000 to 3,000 gallons, which would be the basic indoor need for singles or the elderly. Go to the next tier, 3,000 to 7,000 gallons, which would represent a typical family use. And go to the next tier, high users, 7,000 to 15,000. Then tier 5 to the next tier, I've got the numbers off since I threw that extra one in. The next one, 15 to 25,000 heavy, and 25,000 plus being excessive. We would generate more revenue in those lower tiers that would help stabilize the revenue base. At the same time, those lower use tiers wouldn't really strain the water supply because one of them is 0 use and one of them is less than 1,000 gallons of use. And we could preserve or slightly increase the middle tiers and then just apply the stronger conservation driven increases to the higher tiers, where the more you use, the more you pay. The city is going to wind up with more customers, which is going to generate more revenues. And we could do this in a relatively short time while all these long range water studies are going on, costing us revenue because they haven't come to any conclusion yet. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there. I feel like we are throwing money away. Absolutely.
So on its face, not really researching all the numbers and everything, it looks great. But I think we need to put an emergency caveat in there. Go back to that elderly person that's on tier 1, original tier 1. Water for pipe breaks. And unbeknownst to her, she's got a pipe leaking underneath the house. She doesn't know it until the backyard fills up with water. We need to have some kind of caveat in there to where we're not penalizing that person for that emergency, but yet, the city's not paying for it either at the same time. So if we could figure something there.
I think it's critical. I think there has to be something like that. Some tier 1 user finds themselves in tier 6 because they had a pipe break.
Ian just went on vacation and if something would have happened at his house while he was gone, unbeknownst to him, or his father's house, excuse me, then he'd be looking at a high bill right now.
It happens.
Yes.
I mean, I know of several situations where that has already happened, but where do you draw the line? If you're going to do it for the elderly?
Well, I was just talking in general.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, there's got to be some definition to the structure. It would have to almost be left up to a person or an entity to make that decision.
Absolutely.
And then you got to have criteria as to who qualifies and who doesn't. So
let me,
and I don't know how you can get by legally selecting it out like that. So
let me quantify something before we go any further. Is this chart that I made, I want to be clear, this is an example and a suggestion. With these numbers, the rate category, the gallonage categories totally being amendable. Just throwing something out there to look at. I think that's critical. Ian, did you want to?
Actually, yes. Good morning. My name is Ian Holzman. That exact thing happened to me last year in March or April of last year. I had a leak, an underground leak at my house, and I never would have noticed it or even questioned it. But I happened to look at the bill, and I'm a single person with no washing machine, no dishwasher. I use about 1,000 gallons a month. And one month I looked at the bill and it was up to 9,000 gallons for the previous month. But the cost of the water was marginal. I mean, I wouldn't, and I pay my bill through an electronic draft to the account. So sometimes I don't actually pay attention to the monthly bill just because I know it's paid and I don't have to worry about it. Going from 1,000 to 9,000 gallons only changed my bill by about $6 or $7. So the cost of the water wasn't the issue, and I might not have noticed it for a couple of other months, but I happened to look at the bill and thought something's not right here. Why am I using 9,000 this month when I only used 1,000 for the past 12 months?
Well, we're gonna recommend that they bill you retroactive.
It took 3 months to sort it out, and it ended up costing me $9,000 to fix the leak, but
Wow.
yeah, I mean, the cost of the water itself isn't gonna bankrupt anybody if they go from a usage of 1,000 to a usage of 9,000. And it's a matter of a few dollars a month. The bulk of the water bill is trash collection, wastewater reuse, payments. So if you're gonna do something where you can set up an account where you can keep the water connected but not actually use it, that's a great idea, but you're then gonna be tied to having trash collection at that address as well because of the way the system's set up. And you're gonna have all those additional fees. So you would have to break the water usage off from the rest of the utility bill, which includes all these other items. Something to think about.
Yes, thank you. I think, for one, when we do go into the lower tiers, and this is a more complex discussion, but I think also part of that would be a prorated garbage fee, water reuse fee, all that. The option is you're not going to get anything from that customer. So I think we would rather have something from that customer than nothing. And additionally to your comment, actually we're wanting to make those high uses, high gallonage, where there actually is a difference, where they are paying a large fee for large gallons of usage as a form of conservation. So, but to Thomas's point as well, and all of these details, if the city was interested in this, all these details could be worked out. But I do think we have to have a provision, and maybe it's like a one-time happening or whatever. With the
It can't fill your
Yeah, you
pool
can't-
up, can't fill your pool up and then say, oh, I had a water leak. It
Exactly.
has to be supported by documentation from the plumbing company or what have you.
and you can't pull that every single month.
Right.
Well, I had an emergency. But I think what Ms. Rudd is referencing back to when we're talking about these digital meters, that is going to take care of a lot of this, because the water department is going to know immediately that there is a problem. Here is a 2,000 gallon a month residence that just surpassed 4,000 gallons. There's a problem over there. Or they got a heck of a lot of company in for visiting them. So anyways,
What also is gonna help on that is the fact that you can set those up to notify you when there's excessive usage personally through your cell phone or whatever. So there's no excuse as to say, well, I didn't realize that I had a leak, because it's gonna be sending you a notification on your phone. You know, your usage went from this to this. So that part's gonna help tremendously.
so I think in summation is, man, let's get this rate stuff done. Get some revenue coming in for the city, and get some conservation by higher rates going. Even if it isn't the final say so, we can adjust it later. But I don't see why we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. But anyway. Is there anything else on that sector?
So we're gonna wait. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. We can't do anything about it today. Kimberly's already told us we have no authority, so.
It's representation of my words, Mr. Davidson.
I have a gavel. Okay, so, Ian, you don't get to comment anymore. This is the point of public comments and you've already used your times. Is there anything else that, anyone would like to add comment wise? Start with the staff.
I did.
Go for it.
I'm not staff, but I've got another comment.
Okay.
So several months ago, myself and Diane, Oscar, were put on, some committee from the council to go and have talks with co-op, trying to get some stuff satisfied in that situation. Mr. Moyer kind of stepped in during his term and said that he wanted to take that on. He wanted to initiate the conversation with the co-op and get some things rectified. They had their meeting and talking with the co-op personnel, they were very upbeat about it and were ready for something to happen. And then it just came to a standstill. So I think they've been sitting out there waiting for us to come back to them and say, this is what we want to do. But it just got dropped. And so I would like to just publicly say, I'd like for Diane, myself, and Oscar to go ahead and meet with them again and then see if we can't rectify some of the stuff that's kind of been waning out there in the wings. You know, we've had a whole lawsuit thing that's been tying us up, so I think we need to move forward on that and try to get some remedy to the situation.
Okay.
And we would take that back to council and just let them know. We're gonna
Yes.
do that again.
Yes, it wouldn't be us making any decisions, it would just be us kind of trying to negotiate.
So, the one thing on the next meeting, and I'm gonna throw this out to as we have another city manager coming in and, Mr. Gallegos brought something up. I think there's a little time frame there to where we ordinarily might put the next water advisory meeting might, tax his schedule a little bit. What was the recommendation?
Either do the following week, because it would usually fall on the 21st, about that area. And that's, yeah, so that's his tentative start date, so I don't think that'd be a great day for him to come straight into a meeting.
gotcha.
And know anything about it, but if we push it off a week, at least it'll give him a little time to get his feet wet a little bit,
Okay.
you know?
And this is
And then-
July?
Yep, they're on the schedule.
Yes.
The 28th, or we could wait till August 25th.
Let's tentatively schedule it for the 28th. And I will say, again, maybe I'm repeating myself, but with the possibility that it's canceled because we're going to be stuck until we get digital meters. I feel like that's one person's opinion. Regarding the drought plan, at least, we're stuck. So let's go ahead and schedule it for the 28th and then
Go 900.
and then get together and see if we actually even have something to talk about at that point in time. May have some presentations from the city regarding Aquaterix or the other DBSNA or the co-op or whatever, but at this point in time, speaking of drought contingency plan, I really don't see us being able to do anything significant until those meters get here.
While we've got Eric here, can you kind of give us a little bit of an update on the well field, how we're doing? What we've done?
Well, Friday, we pretty much turned on any spare wells we have. We have one well that's not on, and that because it needs to be repaired. Other than that, all the wells in Blackwater are on. I was hoping for some rain yesterday to kind of help our levels out, but we did still drop from yesterday into today. You know, I talked with the schools to kind of cut down on some of their watering of the soccer fields in their fields a little bit. But then come tomorrow, if we don't get any rain tonight, or if we drop more, I'm gonna have to go start up Lime Street to kind of help us boost it up. And so that will be, if I've turned that on, we'll be at 100, complete 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at 100% pretty much in the Blackwater right now, besides that one well, but I need to get some guys out there to go repair it. They got blown apart, so we gotta take it apart and push it all back together, so, you know. But it's not a real high producer. I think it produces like 45, 50 gallons a minute, so.
Well, we're supposed to get rain all week, hopefully.
Yes, I'm
Knock on wood.
praying that we do, so.
Everybody go wash your car.
Well, since we've discussed all the items on the agenda, plus some, are there any objections to adjourning this meeting?
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
So just for clarification, and by the time we meet next month, which is gonna be the end of August, summer will pretty much be over, right? Or July, end of July. So it publicly, it's been made aware of that we are in tier 2,
Stage 2.
stage 2,
Modified.
modified stage 2. It's been made aware of,
At that council meeting that they rescinded
right?
to a modified stage 2 level.
And on the,
So
And on the website.
So people are aware. I still have people asking about swimming pools. I have witnessed somebody at home having a portable automatic car washing, that he washes cars at his house, and he's got power washers and he's washing his sidewalks, and so
Well, we're right back to what we've already discussed. Until we can get a tiered system on our rates to where people are actually having to pay for that water and make it hit their pocketbook, it doesn't matter how much we get it out there and to the public, what's being,
they start getting in their pocketbook and then not gonna.
they're just gonna do what they want to do regardless until there's some kind of a penalty associated with it. So
Well, there's also a legal basis because
So
there's a
every-
legal basis that we need accuracy that some of it with the digital meters would provide. We need a new drought plan and the accuracy of the digital meters to enforce water restriction legally. Because I don't think we can do it right now.
So right now, between now and a month down the road, it's gonna be pretty much just
Eric working hard in the field.
right, trying to keep up with what everybody's doing and stuff. And on the website, it does give the explanation on what
Here, I'll show
the
you.
modified tier 2 exactly is, so that way if you have to.
Can you click on that? What?
Mhm. Okay. That way I can refer people to.
It was also on social media, but I can repost it if you'd like.
I think that would be
that'd
good.
be good.
I think that would be really good. That way kind of as a reminder. And do we have anything that I know for a while when we would get our water bills, they would have some kind of like a little note. I mean, just as a reminder, basically out of sight, out of mind, if they are doing all this stuff and there's no recourse or reminder, oh wait, we're in this stage. I don't need to be doing
I think
this.
it's present on the water bills, what modified stage it's in.
I'll check with them, and then if not, maybe we just put something else out this next
Okay.
water cycle. Cause I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll see what we can do to get.
If we, I don't know if we could do this or not, but on the envelope. Because just what Ian was saying happens at my house. I get that in, it goes in the shred pile, because we know that it's already being paid. You know, except my banker wife, when she tells me that, the rate is up, I mean, the, usage is up, she, then we start looking for why.
Okay.
But, yeah, if we could do it. But just like
Let's-
Ian said, it just goes straight in the trash.
Let's all make a conscious effort. We can do some things on social media
Yeah.
as well. We need to give these guys some help because it's a real problem.
Yeah.
And we've got to make it through this peak season. So it's only gonna get worse from now until the end of August.
Exactly.
One more chance.
One more chance. Thanks for being here, by the way.
I actually had a whole list of things, but I'll keep it short. I was gonna bring this up, but since you already brought it up, how about doing a one-time flyer, old-fashioned, through the mail, single sheet of paper, both sides, English one side, Spanish on the other side, just because people's memories are really short. They're not gonna go back to a council meeting. They might not go to the website. Some people aren't computer savvy and they don't know that the information is on the website. Granted, we all throw junk mail away, but a bright green or hot pink flyer with like water across the top, just a friendly reminder, we're all in this together. Please do what you can as we go into our hottest month, so everybody has water for the rest of the summer. Just a simple old-fashioned one-time mailing.
PSAs, I know we, like in our backyard, we've got a radio on all the time.
Yeah.
And we hear all sorts of different announcements about Clovis, what's going on, oh, don't forget this, don't forget that. Just something even like that.
Something that they could like
I'm sorry.
slap on their refrigerator.
Okay.
Just one more way to jog people's memories as we're going into the hottest part of the summer and the driest, could be the driest part of the summer. Just a one-time thing, stick it on the refrigerator so the kids can see it and remember it. And
We'll
every little bit helped.
we'll do our part on the social media. And Mr. Gallegos, if there's something there that you could do on
Okay.
paperwork, by all means, man.
All right.
Yep. If it's in the budget and the staff, then so be it.
Mike, I've got two things real quick.
Okay.
Two quick questions. So you said our levels dropped. Where we're just an idea. Where were we? Where are we?
We're at 20.2 right now.
Okay.
Yesterday, we were at 21.4. So we dropped a foot and 2/10 in one day.
So people need to know that we're there with 100% and still dropping. That we're at 20 foot and still dropping at 100% in the field. So that's one thing. The Waterworth rate study that the city done a month ago, or that they set in on, can we have access to that? Is it recorded?
The water,
Yeah, y'all had a Zoom call. Well, you weren't in, I don't think. There was a Zoom call with Waterworth on the issue of the rate study.
Okay.
We weren't privy to it, and I was just wanting to know if that was recorded, and if it was, if you could shoot me an email or where I could find that. And I'd like to watch it. I mean, that's the subject that we're on. We weren't able to sit in on that.
let me see if I could track that down for you.
That would be great. Thank you, sir. I
I can
mean,
go from
just
there.
whatever you can do.
Okay.
Could I ask for clarity on something?
Yes.
20 feet, Eric?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty dangerous considering what starts happening at 18 feet?
18.
Or is it
18s our bottom's 14.
Okay, all right.
Right.
18s when we kind of go into
3.
extreme and level 3.
So could I ask of the city, specifically you three? I agree with you on transparencies and I agree with you on urgencies.
Yeah.
Is that information that you want us to put out or you don't want us to put out?
I mean, it's
We can still.
you can physically go up there and drive up there and see
See it? Okay.
the level.
So it's public knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's
I used to do it every week. remember?
Yeah,
I remember.
I don't think it'd hurt, especially if we're trying to get them to restrict. on it
Okay.
A little bit more.
Okay.
Conserve, not restrict, but conserve it.
Yeah, there's a couple of sites out there that.
You know, at least he'll, tell people why we're asking again at this point, because the water levels
Okay.
starting to drop during this heat wave. that
Now, if
we
they
got.
go up there and look at the front one, the front one's broken.
It hangs up, right?
Just leave
Well,
it
that's
that
not
way.
hanging up,
man.
their cable's snapped on it, so
Okay,
it's just sitting on the
okay.
ground right now.
Okay.
That might help even more.
No, because that means
No,
that
that's
he's thinking it's full then.
Oh, that's
You're
right. Those
full.
things went backwards. Took me a while to figure that one out.
Share that and then before you guys put it out. Cause I know you guys all have pages, the city get it out first and then you share it from there.
Is that what y'all want? We want to work with you on that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
we'll put something together this morning and then put it out on, and then if you can maybe just forward what the information is, that way we get
Absolutely.
correct,
That'd be
accurate
great.
information.
Christine, will you chat me when you're done with that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll wait for you then. That'll give me time to write up the article, Thomas, as well. Try to get people to take this seriously. All right, are there any objections to adjourning this meeting? Okay, having no objections, meeting is adjourned.